Okay, welcome. Today's Wednesday, October 10th, Board of Commissioners regular meeting. We're going to ask for some additions or deletions from the agenda.
We have no additions or deletions to the agenda today.
Okay, then. So we're going to start with an open to public comment. I know Janice is here, and we have some others who'd like to make a comment. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes. We've got a very busy schedule today, so sure, come on up.
Janice Boss-Caudill, Picking County Clerk on Recorder, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll keep it short. Over the next couple of weeks, I'd like to be in front of you to review with you for the public just updates per week on what's going on logistically with the election. So this week, last week we dropped the Tabor notices in the mail. So everybody in Picking County, look for your Tabor notice. It's the issues which have financial implication and will have the financial implication as well as the pros and cons. Also, you should have received the state Blue Book by now. There are 13 measures on the ballot, not all issues, but again, financial implications, pros and cons. If you did not, I have somebody smiling and shaking their head. I received the call the other day that Snowmass Village did not receive theirs. We have posted online at pickandvotes.com under 2018 election resources. We have the Tabor notice, the Blue Book linked, and the Women's League, which usually has good information linked to that. So if you want to go online for more resources, it's easy, pickandvotes.com. Okay. Long ballot this year, 2-page ballot, everyone. Ballots drop Monday, October 15th in the mail. They're dropping out of Denver, so look for your ballot the middle of next week, the 17th to 18th, for your ballot in the mail. If you did not receive your ballot in the mail, go back to pickandvotes.com. There's an icon for voter registration. Go into your record. It's the state record, and it'll tell you, or you tell us where to send it. It'll tell you what address we sent your ballot to. You can update it, and we'll turn around, void your first ballot, and send you the ballot to where you tell us to send it. So it has your residence, your mailing address, and if you're out of state or anywhere else, a third addressing so we can send you your ballot. So we're running ads this week and next week. Ballots drop next week. Next week we have ads. By now you should have received your ballot. Go to Pick and Votes or give us a call. All right. The last thing I wanted to mention before I meet with you next week is drop boxes. So when you receive your ballot, we encourage everybody to vote their ballot early. 85% of people know a month ahead of time how they're going to vote their ballot. We only have so many resources and so much space to process. So early returns for us means you're off the electioneering list. That's a plus. 2 is your return will be included in shortly after 7 o'clock on election night in the first returns. So the papers can start writing articles. They have a 10 o'clock deadline. The other thing is, again, I mentioned resources, and it saves resources for us rather than everybody waiting till the last minute. So drop your ballot. It's free, 24/7, surveillance, at the drop box right in front of the clerk's office, in front of the public Picking County Administration Building, outside of Snowmass Town Hall, and outside of Basalt Town Hall. So there's 3 drops 24/7 with surveillance, and those will open up on Monday the 15th as well. Okay, I'll come back next week and talk about early voting.
That's great. So go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I just want to make kind of a general comment. Going to the post office this morning for other reasons, our Aspen post office, I was told that, they're really short of employees and they only have one person up front and only one in the back. And, it made me a little nervous about all the sorting that's going to happen on election day of getting you those final ballots that have come in the mail. So I just wanted to double down on that encouragement to vote a little early. We do know our local post office is shorthanded.
Use the drop boxes. The other thing is we are advertising, mail your ballot before Halloween, so you can assure we receive it.
Okay, thank you.
2 stamps. 2 stamps.
Also, one more thing. I would urge people to make up their mind about the different ballot initiatives, especially before they sit down to fill out the ballot. And actually write down how you're going to vote on, because there's so many different issues on there.
It's a long ballot. There's sample ballots online.
To be a well-educated voter takes some effort, really, and you have to do your homework and compare different things.
It's all at pickandvotes.com, sample ballot and the resources. So thank you. Anything else before I?
Only just want to reiterate, the ballot drops are outside our admin building, Snowmass Town Hall, Basalt
Town Hall.
Town Hall as well. If you drop your ballot in early, you're not going to get electioneering calls at the last minute, which is a great incentive for everyone. And then Halloween is your drop deadline, correct?
Yep, get it to us before Halloween.
Before Halloween.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Janice.
Thank you.
Okay, we're still open for public comment. Come on up,
Okay.
have a seat.
Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I might need to stand for this because, for the record, my name is Toni Kronberg.
You need to be on a microphone, Tony.
Yeah,
You'll have to
Mike
sit
has to
down.
point at you.
You'll have to sit down.
Okay, I can do that. It sounds like my dog. Sit. Okay. So, let's move
Okay.
this chair over here. Okay.
This is a city ballot issue.
It is, yes. And I think, and I apologize that this, maybe I'll just hold it like this, because it's so crooked. So, first, my name is Toni Kronberg, and I'd like to say you've got a beautiful new room here. This is really a nice addition. And I think the county commissioners are probably aware for the last 2 years that we've been trying to get a question on the ballot as to where city offices should be located. And the city council agreed to put a choice question on the ballot. It's called option A or B on question 2D. And a lot of people are still really confused. It's a really, believe it or not, a very complex ballot issue. And here, what we have here is we have the location map. And a lot of people really aren't quite sure where the two locations are. The ballot question is a package deal. So option A has 3 choices, and option B has 3 choices. Both options include the very first thing is they get a remodel of Armory Hall. Armory Hall is located right here, City Hall. Option A is asking for the purchase of the 517 Hopkins and the top floor of the 204 South Galena building, and that is directly across the street from City Hall. You can see where it's highlighted in yellow here. Option B, which was approved probably 2 years ago, sits over here and is known as the Galena Plaza Rio Grande office building. And it will take over the Tasters building, the entire parking garage. It comes onto Galena Plaza open space. It takes up these parking lots here, and it takes away the street parking over here. So this is option B, and this is option A. This building here comes, as I said, up onto the Galena Plaza open space. It goes over the open space by 19 feet. The total height of the building is 47 feet from the parking garage. And again, it'll fill in this whole area here and take away the parking spots from here. So that's the location map. Then the next one is the price tag. And option A, which is over here, this is a new building across from City Hall, 517 Hopkins. Option A has a set contract price of $45 million, which includes the remodel of City Hall, the scrape and replace of 517 Hopkins, and a remodel of the 204, the top floor of the kitchen space. Option B does not have a set contract price, and the city staff estimates it to be between $46 million and $52 million. And again, it's not a set contract price. The other thing that's included in option A is the land use value is included. Option B, the land use value is not included. Also, in option A, there is no loss of public parking spaces. In option B, we're going to lose 22 public parking spaces right across from Rio Grande Park, which is the home to the John Denver Sanctuary Park, the theater in the park. That parking area is vital to the events and to the community groups that use the park. The next
Tony,
slide.
we're approaching your limit here.
I'm almost done. Here we go. This is the first time I've done this, so I appreciate it. This here is the view from Tasters. The dotted lines is where the new office building, if option B is approved, would go. So you can see how the whole character of the area would be changed. And then the last one is, this is a campaign that I have worked on probably for the last 15 years, but importantly for the last 2 years, is we want to save our public open space. And Galena Plaza is public open space. It was approved in the Civic Master Plan as a regulatory document back in 2006 when Mayor Clanderud was the mayor. And this basically is one of the functions right here, Kent Reed's Shakespeare in the Park. So that's what my goal is to save Galena Plaza, to build city offices right across the street from City Hall with a price tag that's lower than the Galena option, and we don't lose any public parking spaces. But thank you so much. I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming. That was very
Thank you.
quick, actually.
To the point. Thank you so much. It's amazing what these poster boards can do. Okay. All right. Thank you again.
Okay, we're up. Somebody's up next. Okay, who else do we have for public comment? Come on up, sir. I'll limit you about 3 minutes, so you know.
Sure, I'll set my alarm as well, so hopefully I will finish before then, but not need to be
You
interrupted.
could introduce yourself.
My name's Ned Carter. Hi, George, Rachel. How are you all?
Good, thank you.
I don't envy you all in your positions. You have some very nasty things going on in the organizations that you supervise. I would ask you to refer to my public comments to the Aspen City Council last Monday at 5 p.m. I bring to you information, and if you check with Adam Frisch, he'll have much more detailed information that I emailed him over the last day or two. Unfortunately, the housing office is out of control. The favoritism, nepotism, cronyism, selective and malicious prosecution are rampant. What do I mean? Well, I'd like to present these into the record, which I did with the Aspen City Council a couple months ago. And I would like to compliment Mr. Frisch for actually reaching out to me. He's the only city councilman that has. This is an email to Julie Kiefer, Joanna Schaffner regarding violations. Number one on here, I would point out to you specifically because I had complained about them in the past. Nothing had been done until last fall when I had to complain yet again. And, they're finally doing something, and I understand it's in the last phases. But I'm here mostly about APSCA. One huge violator, unfortunately, is the spouse of one of Aspen's golden children. And I have nothing against Judy Hill Levins. I think she's a nice lady. I've met Emery. I think he's a nice guy. But unfortunately, there are articles, which I again provided to the Aspen City Council, that demonstrate that she does not live in her Aspen Village employee housing. Julie Kiefer, Cindy Christensen, I have had arguments about. Well, she says she does. Well, and I'm sorry, I might go over just a little, I'm 22 seconds. If, in fact, you want to believe that their wedding is a sham of 10 years ago, I do have witnesses that will say she lives there. But Pitkin County, oh no. Judy Hill has told me she uses the Aspen Village unit, I believe it's 148, as her studio. Now, do you think she lives in Aspen Village, or do you think she lives in that lovely home, luxury home with Emery Levins? That's about the end of my, sorry, kill it, die. But you can get a lot of information from the Aspen City Council. Please contact me if you ever have any questions. If I may have just another minute or so, I didn't understand how if someone puts in their ballot early, they don't get electioneering calls. I thought it was privacy, and it seems no more if you register.
I can explain that if you'd like, sir.
Please, Rachel.
Yeah. When your ballot is turned in, the clerk's office marks that's turned in, and you can see online that they have received it as well. So no one knows what is in the ballot. It's just that it has been received, and those campaigns that are organized may drop you from their call list.
Thank you, thank you.
And that's about it for time.
Lastly, I would beg you, in the spirit of due process, which is guaranteed to us in our Constitution, that you allow those people who have been denied due process, Mr. McKay, I think it's Amanda Tucker, and people like that, to qualify. Because when due process is denied, our entire system is in jeopardy. The information that I've provided and I'll give you these, I'll submit them into the record.
Jeanette will take
And I thank you for your time, and just please, I never filled out my employee housing reply questionnaire, never. They never did anything against me because I was told, oh, we know where your wife works. But fraudulent affidavits are honored. So I would ask you to look into that, because if Judge Ely's husband, whatever, the prosecutor, Pitkin County, doesn't want to go after people that are providing false affidavits, what is the value of an affidavit?
Right, thank you for
Thank
your
you,
comments.
and I apologize about taking more of my time.
Okay, do we have another one? Lee, come on up.
Hi, my name is Lee Mulcahy, and I'm here. I'm very grateful, and when you deal with the government, you got to maintain your sense of humor. But we're here to ask you to nudge Aspen City Council to send them a message. Justice Sonia Sotomayor of the U.S. Supreme Court gave us an extension for 60 days to work out a local settlement. We haven't been successful with the mayor. Patty's in Mexico on an island. We just talked to her. If we need to wait for her vote, we can, but I just wanted to assure you that time is running out. We're asking, our proposal is to put a work session on APSHA. You're going to hear from more people, and again, if you just look at the city council comments, as Steve said, there's dysfunction in the system. We're just asking to get to have a work session with the county and for us to be an agenda item. Aspen was built around the arts. I stand on my record, Rachel. I've exhibited in Beijing. I've exhibited in Berlin multiple times. APSHA is your baby. You birthed it with the city council, and you're reorganizing it now. And Selden, I'd like to remind you, was your assistant attorney. Ward Howenstein, the current city councilman, stated in the newspaper that APSHA is trying to take away the home Mulcahy, and I quote, built on his own blood equity. I really think it would be an injustice to this town and to the eclectic collection of human beings here to kick Lee out of a home that he has proudly earned and certainly built. I think we all know APSHA is above the law. They operate in violation of their own rules. And cut me off any time, but I have 3 points to make on that. And the first one is they sent a compliance letter July 17th. And according to their rules, and I'll be happy to read it if you'd like, or do you want me to? It basically says that they will not send a notice of violation for 60 days, which meant the NOV shouldn't have gone out until September 15th. However, APSHA jumped the gun. They sent the NOV out August 25th, almost a month early. Now, to add insult to injury, Julie Kiefer hadn't decided, and I have the email, it's right here, It's in your record, it's in your public record. She hadn't decided what documents that she wanted to take as an artist, and she names them like records of sales all through here. So that was October 14th, well after all the deadlines. Now, I went in October 22nd to take the records, and the deputy director refused to look at them. So, why is that significant? Because APSHA, your baby, turned around and used that notice of violation, which was sent premature, which was illegal, to deny us a public hearing in the courthouse next door. Now, that's not the worst thing. The worst thing was just recently discovered about 60 days ago by a young attorney in Denver, and we're very grateful. Neither APSHA nor Judge Chris Selden followed Colorado court procedure. APSHA sued on December 2nd. On December 3rd, the clerk of court issued an order that required Judge Selden, APSHA, and me, the defendant, pro se, to sit down and discuss 17 things. Why is that important? Because one of those things, Steve, was mediation and ADR, alternative dispute resolution. That's huge.
Okay, we're running low on time here.
I'm sorry?
We're running out of time.
Okay, so my last point is, I know you may not, Rachel, you may not be a Christian, but it is the churches and the synagogues in this community are the glue of society. It's where people like you, a Democrat, and me, a Republican, come together and break bread and live in peace. And our prayer, and I'd like to read it if you wouldn't mind, this Sunday at my church was this: Lord Jesus, help us and the people of every nation recognize that we must live together in unity if we are to live in lasting justice and peace. And give us the wisdom to see the ways of opening hardened hearts and bringing people closer together as we struggle with the ongoing consequences of evil in this world. Help us find shared interest and visions that will enable us to resolve the many problems that divide us and cause us so much pain and suffering, and give us the grace to act with integrity and remain faithful to what is good and true. Be present in our lives, Lord Jesus, and help us live in unity and peace. I'd like to remind this board that we brought over 2,000 signatures of your fellow citizens asking for a public hearing. Notably, the city of Aspen to refuse to put it in their record despite multiple requests. And I will get on my knees and I will plead with you, board, please give us a work session so that we can present this evidence that is damning to our system. It is not right to expect Washington, D.C. to handle constitutional problems in our little town. And I beg you, on my knees, please, Rachel, please bring peace to this community.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another one. Come on up, please.
My name is Sandy McKay, and when we began the paperwork with the U.S. Supreme Court, as Lee mentioned, Justice Sotomayor said, we're going to give you a 60-day extension in order for there to be a local working out of this issue. And that was pretty significant. You don't always have that kind of cooperation. There were some happenings in Texas that coincide with those dates that Lee pointed out. First of all, my husband and I were at MD Anderson in Houston, where he was under cancer treatment. Lee arrived from Aspen, and within 2 days, Bud had died. And it was, in a way, surprising to us because he had managed through the years to just fight cancer and come out. So that was startling in that respect. Because we had been there for months, Lee had to pack up all my goods and then drive me to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We arrived at my home and discovered that it had been flooded, and it ended up that all the furniture, everything, had to be put in storage, and that was a 6-month mess. Well, that date that Lee pointed out, again, was significant During that time period, we had already decided to make a humanitarian mission trip to Kenya. Lee was going to fill in for his dad, and even in the court records, it said that Lee had been on an Africa trip, like he had been off on a safari. It was humanitarian, and he was the one that laid the pipe, plumbed it, and added another water source from the original well to the village people. Now, there are dates that are important, and one of them being December 2nd, because that's when APSHA filed the lawsuit. December 3rd, as Lee pointed out, was significant because it was something that was just recently discovered. And when I found out exactly what it was, I want to tell you I was so angry because we have spent 3 years of anguish. A order was sent to Tom Smith, the APSHA attorney, and to Judge Chris Selden to have a conference. They required that to take place, and it was to be held with Lee so that they could look at 17 different issues and topics, one of them being mediation and hopefully a settlement. What did they do? They did nothing. They totally ignored it. And I want to read this part because it is surprising. The Colorado Rules of Civil Procedure 16B2 specifically obligated APSHA to set a conference within 42 days. So we've been through all this pain when something could have been done. That's unlawful. And instead of the conference, Judge Selden ordered an eviction and forced house sale, all without a hearing. And that is against our constitutional rights. I am asking the BOCC to consider our case, and then, as Lee pointed out, to have an APSHA work session, include City Council, and then perhaps something can be settled. And on that work session, it needs to be noted that it was the McKay eviction to be considered.
Okay,
My
so-
remarks Monday night, I have a couple of sentences. My remarks Monday night to City Council were this: is your badge of honor evicting Lee and an 83-year-old widow? Because that's not a badge of honor. That is a badge of shame. And let me paraphrase Edmund Burke's famous remark: all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Do we have anyone else? One more. Come on up. Okay, sir, you've got 3 minutes. Start with your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Paul Kennedy. And I'm here just to give a little background for Mr. McKay as a neighbor, as a friend, and as someone of the community. I think what's going on is slightly bizarre. I think Mr. McKay, he has proved himself as a good community member. And knowing him for over 3 years, I think what's going on here for the eviction and all of these rules and all this is, I think doesn't make sense to me at all. So I ask, as a council, as I vote and I elect all of you, to look and give grace to this man. He has done nothing wrong. To each and every one of you. And finally, you're looking at me. I think his mother's testimony, his testimony, all of it, it puts it right down to the facts. You're going to evict a man who built his own house? And his mother? I mean, that's what this is about. I mean, let's be fair. We have a system, democracy, whatever you want, whatever you want to call it. But we have rules. Let's follow those. Let's work together. Aspen, Colorado. Hunter S. Thompson said, Fat City. He called it that. We'll elect DeSalvo again. We'll do that again. I love this place. We all love this place. That's why we're here. Let's not push out people that are valuable, that are good neighbors. I live in Burlingame, Phase 2. I live there. And literally, 2 or 3 days ago, I said, Lee, I can't, pay my phone bill. He loaned me $20. Just out of, it wasn't even a question. I mean, this man he's a good man. We need more good men.
Thanks, Paul. We're going to have to wrap it up.
All right, copy that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment. Still another one?
Good morning. My name is Amanda Tucker. I'm here to speak in behalf of Lee and Sandy McKay. They're obviously, the point with APSHA is the idea is that Lee and Sandy have broken a couple of rules. And basically the breaking of those rules led to their eviction and forced sale. I have here in front of me, and I'll leave with you, 34 cases where APSHA have made exceptions for other families. One of them I notice here, pilot exclusive out of Pitkin County Airport, not here for 9 months per year, but gone for 11. And he was granted, he was gone, not here for 9 months. We're talking that they missed a deadline here. Semi-retired, not quite full-time income. There's 34 cases here, and I think all but 5 of them, they made an exception. And basically, they've entered into a legal war with Lee and his mother because they missed a couple of document deadlines, and they're trying to force his sale of his home. The point to you, gentlemen and ladies, is that it's selective enforcement. If that's the way the rules are going to be, then that's the way the rules are going to be. But they're going to be for everybody, not a pilot here that isn't in Pitkin County for 9 months, but APSHA approves. And here we have one guy whose father is dying. He's helping his mother with a flood in Texas. Is in Kenya, so maybe he didn't answer a deadline that they sent out at the wrong time anyhow. And they're going to bring everybody here, costing Pitkin County, who knows, for their attorney to try and win this case when they have 34 other exceptions. May I leave this with you? It's a CORA document. It's a protected document, revealed their stake line is its compliance, and they're just playing by the rule. Absolutely nonsense. It's complete selective enforcement. They go after the people they don't like, and this is a government document to show you.
You can leave that
Thank
with
you.
Jeanette.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Sure.
Okay. Do we have anyone else? I think that's it for public comment. Commissioner comment. Steve?
Well, there is an event coming up this Saturday night, the first Contra Dance of the year, and there will only be 4 Contra Dances this year held at the Carbondale Community School. So the first one is this Saturday night, starting about 7 o'clock would be a good time for people to show up. And we don't usually get a lot of people from Aspen, but I know a lot of people watch Grassroots TV who live down in the Mid-Valley because they want to know what's going on in Pitkin County. So it's a really fun event. I urge everybody to come and try it out. It's really a lot of fun and good exercise and great music by my spouse and others.
A plug. Thank you, Steve. Rachel, do you have some?
I would only encourage people to double-check their mailing address on pickinvotes.org and make sure you are properly registered to receive your mail-in ballot. Thank you.
George, anything?
Well, we have a resolution coming up this afternoon supporting RAFTA 7A ballot initiative. And I got an email this morning from a paper, City Lab. And the headline is, "To avoid climate catastrophe, your transportation choices matter." And they talk about, this is a report that was just released by the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It spelled out a grim planetary future in no uncertain terms. And some of the ways to try to address this is to be able to provide alternative means of transportation and move people from cars to buses or to trains. And also to look at other types of fuels, from diesel to electric. And these are all the things, these are just some of the things that the question 7A will provide. They'll provide more buses, more opportunities for people to utilize buses, get out of their cars, opportunities to take advantage of electric buses. We've got 8 electric buses that are on order in conjunction with the city of Aspen. They're going to be quieter. They're going to be emissions-free. And so for our community that is working very hard to address climate change, the city of Aspen, town of Snowmass Village, and Pitkin County all have climate action plans to find ways to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We know that 25% of our greenhouse gas emissions comes from our transportation. And in fact, it's one of the largest economic drivers in the country in terms of greenhouse gas emissions comes from our transportation economy. So there are ways that we can help reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, help address congestion, and those are just some of the amenities or some of the benefits that voters will be able to support when you vote on 7A this coming election. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make one also, picking up from George. Certainly 7A and RAFTA refunding is critically important. Given the UN climate report, there's just more. It seems like there's an immediate but long-going emergency around climate change and global carbon emissions, and it's easy to ignore it. It might be in the back of all of our minds and causes health and mental health consequences, but I just don't think we can ignore it. And I know we have a climate action plan. The city of Aspen is being aggressive, but are we being aggressive enough? And during budget season, I'm wondering if we should be discussing what each department in our county could be doing or should be doing to meet our climate objectives. You know, are we getting reports on how things are going? Is progress being made? When we consider land use and zoning, greenhouse gas emissions should certainly be a part of the equation, as I know they are, but it's necessary that we dramatically reduce them. I remember Vice President Cheney years ago mentioned that environmentalism, the response to climate was a personal. How did he say it? He said it's really a personal thing. But the fact is, it's personal for all of us, and I didn't really respect him for saying that because I think it's something that needs leadership. So I think the calls are getting more urgent. If you Google anything in the news about it right now, you see almost every major publication is calling an alarm, which is daunting, and it is alarming. And it's I'm losing sleep over it, and I think it might be the most important thing we can address for now and for years to come. Someone suggested that perhaps our community development department might take on a new name or another name, Climate Action Department, and that we really start working seriously on what are we doing with our REMP funds? Are we going to have enough to make a difference for existing homes, new homes, transportation? We have so much work to do. I just want to make sure we're all paying attention to it and everyone's on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's get back to what's next on our meeting. I think we've got consent items coming up. We've got consent items for single reading, minutes of the regular meeting from September 26th. Do we have a motion for that?
Yeah, I would like to just break these up a little because there might be some comments on some of those, Greg, on the consent items. So I'd make a motion to approve consent item number 1, the minutes of the regular meeting of September 26th, and the ratification of the hearing officer's determination of abatement petitions for property tax refunds.
Just those two?
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
We have a second on that. Do we need discussion or do we just need to vote?
You can
on it?
ask for discussion, but I don't have any.
We don't have any more discussion on that. Okay, then I'd like to put it to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would like to make a motion, resolution endorsing the Roaring Fork Transit Authority ballot issue 7A regarding electorate authorization to oppose an ad valorem property tax and issues of revenue bonds.
Second.
And again, as we just spoke about, some of the issues that we're facing throughout the world in terms of climate change, RAFTA's initiative, which includes asking the voters to approve a 2.65 mill levy. It's the first property tax that RAFTA has ever gone before and asked for. RAFTA's about 50% of RAFTA's revenues is driven by sales taxes only. And sales taxes, as we know, can be very volatile, so it's very hard to try to do a long-range budget and to take into account how sales taxes may be affected by our local, national, and international economy. So to make a fair and equitable way for all of our member jurisdictions to be able to support RAFTA and all of their endeavors, a mill levy was really the only viable way to do that. This mill levy will allow local buses as well as the BRT buses to be able to expand their frequencies on weekends and in the evenings year-round. That's going to be a tremendous benefit for employees having to come back and forth up and down the valley, for businesses to ensure that their workforce can get here and get home safely. It's going to provide opportunities to improve our infrastructure and pedestrian safety amenities. It's going to be able to regularly maintain our Rio Grande Trail that's so heavily used, and also be able to support a new trail being built down between Glenwood and Newcastle. So, and of course, most importantly, it's going to be able to provide RAFTA the ability to continue to purchase and replace obsolete buses. Those buses are very, very expensive. They run anywhere from $500,000 per bus to over $1 million for electric buses. So for the long term, for the next 10 years, these projects that have been basically put into place by the community members and all the member jurisdictions saying these are the needs that we have. These are what our communities are asking RAFTA to provide. And the only way we can do that is to ask the voters to approve a property tax. If the property tax does not get approved, then within the next 5 years, we will see, unfortunately, some scheduling reductions in frequencies of buses, and that will happen during non-peak times, perhaps midday, early morning, late evenings, but that will certainly impact those people who need or rely on those schedules to get up and down the valley. So it's a critical issue. It's an issue that affects our economy. It's an issue that affects our environment. Our success as a county, our success as communities are directly tied to the success of RAFTA. So I ask everyone to vote for 7A and get on board with RAFTA. Thank you.
Another comment?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, some people are saying they're not going to vote for this because they don't ride the bus and they don't use the trails. And I'd like to counter their argument by saying that everybody benefits from RAFTA. If you never ride the bus, you use the roads, and having all the people riding RAFTA on our highways makes for less congestion on the highway for those who are driving their cars or who have to drive their work trucks or whatever. Obviously, a lot of people have valid reasons for not riding RAFTA, but they all benefit from having thousands, upward of more than, about 5 million people a year ride RAFTA, and if all of them were on the highways would really be clogged. Parking places would be non-existent. So I would urge everybody to vote for this, whether you ever will ride on a RAFTA bus or not, because it's to your benefit. Thank you.
Rachel?
I just ditto George and Steve.
Likewise, I'd have to agree. I was going to say, even if you don't use it, you should vote for it anyway. You can actually save a lot of money on a weekly basis if you get out of your car and ride the bus. Okay, I'd like to get a all in favor.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, and it's passed. We're endorsing this resolution.
I would make a motion for discussions purposes to approve resolution opposing Amendment 74A, state citizen initiative that proposes to amend the Colorado Constitution to drastically limit state and local government regulatory authority.
Second?
Got a second?
Yeah.
Discussion?
Speaking to this just briefly, so we can move along on so many other issues. On your ballot, 74A is a citizen initiative that was funded by oil and gas interests as a countermeasure to the citizen initiative to create fracking setbacks. And it is a very damaging and overly broad potential change to our state constitution, upsetting established court order related to fair market value takings and governmental action. And it says that any reduction in fair market value of a property is eligible for payment takings claims from the local government that has made such a ruling. If you think to our own local community here in Aspen, the city council not long ago in Aspen lowered the height limits of buildings to 28 feet. And that simple action would have triggered every commercial property in the downtown core having ability to sue for millions of dollars because they had just lost the air rights to go to 40 feet. It means that the original Board of County Commissioners, who enacted significant downzoning in Pickens County so that there wouldn't be strip developments all up and down Highway 82, would not have been able to do that without having potentially been taken to court for that. I saw the first television commercials against this measure last night, and they stress that it's not the government that pays, it's the taxpayers that pay. And it would come out of your general fund and your services if someone claims that reduction in value. one of the trickiest parts about any takings claim, and let me be clear, I think as a board and any elected board, you're very cautious to avoid the potential of takings claims or the actions that really would be a takings. It's a sacred trust to respect private property rights, but it's equally a sacred trust to govern for the community and the community's greater good and the community needs. And so a valuation is such a snapshot in time. Would you really say your property went down 40% because of the Great Recession 10 years ago? Or was it because of a local rule that was just passed? Well, both you and your attorneys will be spending a lot of time in court trying to prove that matter. And it results in a deluge of lawsuits against local governments. An easier example is a community that's at all urbanized, has 4 streets coming into a major artery, and there's no stoplights now. But traffic has gotten so severe that you need an intersection. You need a traffic light for public safety. Whichever street you pick of those 4 to put it on, the neighbors on either side will be suing you for a diminishment of their property value because now they have an intersection and a traffic light. Cars will be idling there, affects their air quality, affects the noise when people have their stereo on, and you should have put that intersection on the next street over. So it's a paralyzing activity for any governance or any rule of order within communities. I imagine that the state will be sued as soon as they issue a new permit to drill to a fracking company when someone says, but those odors nearby are going to affect me. Or when someone tries to enlarge their cattle operation and downwind neighbors say they can smell the operation, it's diminished their property. So this is just like the Attorney's Permanent Employment Act of 2018, and I would encourage everyone to vote no on 74.
Steve?
There are 2 states who passed similar things, Oregon and Washington. In Oregon, the voters threw it out 2 years after it was enacted because it was absolutely, I don't know the exact situation, but it was mayhem in Oregon. The state of Washington has had it for more than 6 years at this point, and they have claims of well over $1 billion against the state and local governments for diminishment of property value. If we had those kind of claims in Colorado, all the local governments and the state government would be bankrupt.
Yeah.
And we would not be able to function at all. It would be totally paralyze the state if this passes.
Comment, George, on that? Are you?
No, I agree with all the comments.
I agree with that. I was thinking $1 billion, you could imagine $1 billion in claims here in our community. So this really is a bad bill. It seems vindictive or it's simply created to cause
To add
chaos.
that, I would just say some very conservative groups like Club 20 are in opposition. I believe CCI took a position of opposition, Colorado Municipal Leagues, and any numbers of other organizations, because it just, in many ways, it may not be retroactive to rules that have already been passed, but it's be very hard for any community to want to pass anything new, any new rezoning, any stream side mitigations, drought measures, just anything that you wanted to consider for the environmental protection or community health protection would be subject to intensive and long-lasting court battles, and so it is paralyzing.
Can we take a vote on it?
Yeah.
Resolution opposing Amendment 74A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we've got one more. Would anyone like to?
I'd like to move to approve the resolution endorsing the passage of ballot issue 1A, which is a dedicated property tax for a healthy community fund.
I will second that.
Comment? Further comment?
If anybody reads the paper, you will have noticed there have been dozens and dozens of letters from people from different nonprofit and community organizations up and down the valley supporting this. This fund provides for the nonprofits really seed money that enables them to continue to exist. Oftentimes they use the money they get from the Healthy Community Fund is kind of the community contribution to it that they use then to acquire further grants that provide the bulk of their funding, actually. And there are, I think, up more than 70 organizations that receive benefits from this fund. The most important things, though, locally that receive funding from this is the senior services department gets a large percentage of its funding from this, and also now our community health department gets funding from this. So those are things that we need to continue funding, and if this would fail, heaven forbid, we would have to provide for those functions out of our general fund, and other things would suffer as a result. And I would think if this ballot issue would fail, we probably would have to just end the funding to the 70 nonprofits, because we just wouldn't be able to sustain that out of our general funding. So I urge passage of this resolution and passage of the ballot issue.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, this is really one of the unique opportunities and amenities that Pickens County citizens have provided since 2002. 2002? Yeah, 2002. So this is not a new property tax. It's been in existence since 2002. It sunsets this year after 6 years, and it's just one of several things that make Pickens County such a special place. We're the envy of many other counties when they hear that we have such a fund, that we're able to help so many different nonprofits, whether it's from issues dealing with our children all the way to our seniors, from our environment to our public health. It touches everybody in our community and actually throughout the valley. I don't think there's one person who does not use or is exposed or knows of someone that benefits from these funds that go to all these nonprofits. So again, it's such a unique function, or I can't think of the word, a unique thing for Pickens County that we should be proud of it. I think we understand the need and the use of it. So I would strongly encourage people to vote yes on 1A and to continue to support the Healthy Community Fund.
Rachel?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is an incredibly important program, and it does a lot more for any of us than we think. There is a slight increase from 6 years ago, and that is because the agencies which help administer these great services throughout our community have seen a dramatic increase in demand for services. I think the old statistic was about 25,000 personal contacts for services in 2006, and last year it was over 55,000. Those are really important metrics to take a look at. We all know the challenges that have come at our community in recent years. While wages have recovered or economies recovered, wages are still pretty hard when it comes to housing burdens, costs like that. And the demands that we've seen, particularly for increase in services surrounding mental health, substance abuse, suicide prevention, domestic violence, which are indicators of stress on a society and a community, have dramatically increased. And we've been taking steps in a coordinated fashion among all these agencies to address this more completely and more fully. So it's the type of thing that when the program is successful, you don't see so much of the results because you don't see the damage. but the families feel the results and the children feel the success. So this is everything from English in Action to Spellbinders, the youth center up at the high school and across that way, visiting nurses for young new parents, all the way to hospice care for our friends and neighbors who are in their last days in this community. I realize it may be a little bit of a disadvantage that we often use the term nonprofits, all the nonprofits. Well, I'd like to think of them more as agencies, which they are. And they're professional, and they are accountable, and they are held to IRS tax standards, and they have volunteers. So the money that we're able to contribute is multiplied many times over by the volunteer commitment and other grants they're able to leverage these dollars for. Of particular note is there is a citizen review board who looks at all the applications each year and has values that they are asking for to say, how did you deliver these services last year? How successful were your programs? Avoiding redundancy. How well are you working with other agencies with similar missions to make sure, again, there's no redundancy, but yet there's synergy and effectiveness in keeping families and individuals who are at risk and are facing very difficult times in their life, helping them through those times. And so the citizen review information is public information. The grant applications are public information. They're held to a very high standard, and the standards that we hold them to improve the services that they receive or that they are able to deliver. And in particularly in such a way that, we all make our end of the season contributions, perhaps to agencies that we've helped or have helped us or we're associated with. And those very agencies function better because they're held to these accountability standards. I know I'm not writing a goodwill check, so to speak, because I like the name of the organization or I've seen some good ads. I'm writing my check because I know they deliver the services we need, and they do that through the accountability and being a partner with Pickens County. So I really urge all of our citizens to vote yes, and thank you for the time.
Great. I just wanted to reiterate that I cannot think of an individual in our extended community or our entire valley who's not helped or affected in a positive way by the Healthy Community Fund. It really is far-reaching throughout the entire community. And the value of the leverage in the funds is about 20 times what we put in. So it really does have a positive impact. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think we're good there. We passed it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on. Individual consideration items. One reading, resolution approving the Home Supply Ditch Company. Paul Holsinger, you're on deck.
Thank you. My name is Paul Holsinger. I'm the Agriculture and Conservation Easement Administrator for the Open Space and Trails Department here. I'll get you a map here. Maybe. Back in June or July of 2017, Open Space and Trails Department approved a management plan for the Emma Open Space, which is about 1.5 miles west of Basalt. And with this, in this management plan, the trying to get you a map to orient you. Here we go. Through the management plan process, we heard from both recreationists and the agricultural users that they wanted a crossing of the home supply ditch so there'd be better access to the BLM Light Hill area. We also didn't have access to this 11-acre parcel. We call it the South Lease area. We didn't have vehicle access or very limited foot access. We had to go through this private property by permission only. And so to accomplish two things. We wanted to put a culvert in the home supply ditch so that we could have that trail access as well as agricultural access and connect those two lease areas. To accomplish this, we have to enter into an agreement with the Home Supply Ditch Company so that their water rights and infrastructure is protected. So right now we're still figuring out the final details of some minor language adjustments on that, but we're ready to move forward with this project. As soon as this ditch turns off, we'll get the culvert in and should be ready to go by the end of November, I'm guessing. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Steve?
Yeah, Paul, there's somewhere in all the information that mentioned 94 cubic feet per second is the flow of the ditch. And I was curious if that's the flow coming by this property, or is that the water right at the head gate?
The water right at the head gate is not 90.
More than that?
It's less than 94.
Okay.
We just designed the structure to handle the right of the home supply, the full right, plus any other additional spring runoff water if they want
So
to.
there could be
load it.
water coming from other ditches, tailwater coming into the home supply.
Yeah. So we just engineered it to make sure we handled the full amount, plus if they could put more in it,
Okay.
we could handle that as well.
Yeah, 94
Yeah.
CFS would take
a lot of water.
more than the whole flow of Capitol Creek for most of the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
okay.
George?
Yeah, Paul, as you said, this is going to provide a great trail access to link, starting behind the Basalt High School, and then to traverse along Light Hill, and then be able to cross over the Home Stake Supply ditch to get back on the Rio Grande Trail. So it makes a nice loop and makes a nice way to access the Rio Grande Trail. And certainly with our new Basalt Vista project, a housing project, this is right behind, this is their back door. So it's a great amenity. So I'm glad to finally see this come to fruition after several years in terms of trying to figure out the best way to address this. So thanks.
Yeah. And that trail access is going to be equestrian and hiking only, no dogs. And I believe we have a seasonal closure, but I don't know what those dates are.
Rachel?
No, I had no comment. Thank you. Thanks,
I was gonna
Paul.
ask you, yeah, this is hiking and equestrian trail.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Off we go. Thanks, Paul. Progress. Okay, we're going to individual consideration items, first readings. And we have,
Is your microphone on?
Thank you, I'm back. First readings, individual consideration items. Didn't want you to hear me chewing.
Yeah, I understand. Nothing for me.
Okay, rise up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is kind of a map-intensive reading, so I'm going to do that. But for the record, Richard Neely, Assistant County Attorney. This first item, I have two items in a row here. This first one is an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners, Pitkin County, Colorado, accepting a recreational easement from Valley View Ajax LLC. The next ordinance on your agenda is intimately related with this one, so if it's okay, I'll give some background on both of them at once. I did them as two different ordinances because I think it's a little bit cleaner to do the two different easements separately, but if it's okay with the board and the chair, I'll go ahead and give a little background on both of them, but I do want to pull up this map here because I think it's helpful. In the meantime, this is the first reading of this ordinance. The second reading is scheduled for October 24th. That's also the public hearing. This easement grant is being made in connection with some litigation the county's been involved in United States District Court for the District of Colorado, case number 2017 CV 2738. The way it's currently titled is Valley View Ajax versus Pitkin County. The Forest Service was a party to that litigation, but has since been dismissed. The county, or the litigation still exists. There's a settlement agreement that has not been fully ratified, and the case has not been dismissed. The dismissal date is tentatively scheduled for October 26th, assuming this ordinance, both of these ordinances are approved. All right, here we go. Ooh, wrong direction. Okay, so this is a recreational ski easement that is currently, not currently, that will be over the property of the plaintiff, Valley View Ajax, which is this property right here. Let me orient you a little bit. Pitkin County owns, these two, well, a few mining claims down here, but pertinent to this discussion is what's called the number 7 lode and the Forest Queen lode. These are two mining claims that the county acquired after the owner failed to pay taxes. They are acquired by treasurer's deed in the 1950s. Where we are on Aspen Mountain is Bell Mountain Chair is approximately, the top of Bell Mountain Chair is approximately right here. Aspen Mountain Road comes up right to here and then splits off. There's currently just a rope right here that separates what's commonly known as Lucien's Road, and you can see it's on the GIS as that. It's back and forth as Lucien or Lucien's. The Lucien brothers originally owned the plaintiff's property. Anyway, the county owns a collection of mining claims right here, two of which are the number 7 lode and the Forest Queen lode. The plaintiff, Valley View Ajax, was suing Pitkin County to acquire access across the county-owned property along the alignment of Lucien's Road right here. To do that, they were hoping to access, or their goal was to access this property back here, which is called it's a portion of the Iron Silver Placer. This is a mining claim that came out of the public domain in the late 1880s. It has an existing cabin on it that is located approximately right here. The property, as it exists, is currently 76 acres. This recreational easement would, let me zoom out a little bit. The intent of this recreational easement would be to allow members of the public who are backcountry skiing in the McFarland Basin area to ski in this area and then traverse the plaintiff's property, or Valley View Ajax property, and come all the way back to what is currently permitted as the Aspen Mountain Ski Area, of course run by the Aspen Skiing Company. This property right here adjacent to the Valley View Ajax property is owned by the Aspen Skiing Company. Ultimately, this property is slated to become part of the Aspen Mountain Master Plan Pandora's expansion. I know that there's a master plan in the Community Development Department for that currently. So I think this will currently be part of that. Anyway, the easement, the grant of easement to Pitkin County would follow the alignment, the existing alignment of Lucien's Road as it goes through this property. There is various discussions about, routing the easement through here, so it had through the lower part of the property, so it had a lesser impact on the owners of the property. But ultimately, after doing a site visit with the owners, and Commissioner Clapper was on that site visit, both Valley View Ajax and their representatives and the county decided that the existing alignment was probably the best way to do that. As consideration for Valley View Ajax granting the county a recreational ski easement through their property, the county, the next ordinance up would be granting Valley View Ajax an easement across the number 7 lode in the Forest Queen lode. In your packet, there's a better survey of the mining claims that are associated with that. I can turn on the mining claim layer, but I'll tell you the GIS mapping in this area is pretty inaccurate when you actually get on the field and survey it. This has Lucien's Road crossing other mining claims that it does not cross. In any event, it's really it's a couple hundred linear feet as it crosses the number 7 lode right through this area. There are restrictions that we've placed on the plaintiffs, or sorry, I keep calling them plaintiffs, but the Valley View Ajax use of this easement, including no commercial use, no commercial mining, logging, and such. Those restrictions are laid out in the easement document in your packet. What there are not is restrictions on things like number of trips, and it basically allows the plaintiff, Valley View Ajax, to utilize the county property during the summer months and utilize that portion of Lucien's Road by any means that are currently allowed on Aspen Mountain Road. So any vehicle that's permitted on Aspen Mountain Road would be able to cross Lucien's Road here. That is the gist of these two ordinances. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have and fill you in on anything else that comes to mind.
Rachel?
Well, just to kind of clarify what you just said,
Sure.
it would be year-round access with vehicles permitted to use the road in the winter?
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear about that. No, the access would only be during the summer months. So anytime the Aspen Mountain skiing area was in operation, the plaintiffs, Valley View Ajax, would not be able to use Lucien's Road. They have a similar easement with the skiing company for this property down here that prohibits their use of the road, both for snowmobile access and any other access. They can use foot or ski access along the road, but there is no snowmobile access to the property across Ski-Co property, or if you were to adopt this ordinance, it would also be across the county property as well. The corresponding recreational easement is similarly limited, that the ski
winter
access
only,
is
not
during
summer.
winter. Exactly. So,
Okay, great, thanks for that
no
clarification.
problem.
Great. Anyone else?
Do you want to?
Steve?
So, I presume that the legal proceedings would be vacated, or whatever the term would be, based on the fact that we'd be coming to this agreement and passing it here.
Yeah, that's a good.
Is there anything that could possibly happen that the judge would throw out our action here and say that's not good enough?
Right. Yes, to your first part of your question, yes, this is certainly, this exchange of easements is the consideration for settling the case. The parties have agreed to bear their own costs and their own attorney's fees, so it's really just this exchange of easements. The judge could theoretically not approve the stipulation to dismiss the case for some reason. I would be very surprised if that were to happen. Generally, if there's a stipulation between the parties for dismissal and a settlement agreement associated with that, the judge would almost certainly dismiss the case with prejudice. So I would suspect that the district court judge will not take a look closely at these easements or the substance of these easements or anything like that, and just leave it to the parties to say you're both satisfied with the resolution of this action, and I'm going to go ahead and dismiss the case on that basis. Does that answer your question?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you accept a motion?
I would accept a motion. Are we accepting a motion for one or two?
I think it would be cleaner to do
One at a time.
one at a time.
Okay.
Okay. I would make a motion to approve an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Picken County, Colorado, accepting a recreational easement from Valley View Ajax LLC.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. On to the next one.
Great, thank you. Again, Richard Neely, Assistant Pickens County Attorney. This is an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners, Pickens County, Colorado, granting an access easement to Valley View Ajax LLC. So this ordinance would just be the corresponding ordinance to the one that you just adopted on first reading. Again, this is set for public hearing and second reading on October 24th, and the Pickens County Attorney's Office recommends that you adopt this ordinance.
Do I have a motion?
Would make a motion and then to approve an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County, Colorado, granting an access easement to Valley View Ajax LLC.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, what we have next is Janice is returning. This is a resolution authorizing the Colorado Department of State Electronic Recording Technology Board Grant Award. Wow.
So, in short course, in 2016, legislation passed a Senate bill which provided for an enterprise fund, whereas clerks collected an additional $2 surcharge, which they forwarded to the enterprise fund held at the state. What the grant provides, the money provides for counties, all counties, but mainly small counties that do not have the funding, to propose a grant in order to upgrade their recording systems. Recording systems are used for land use transactions. Pickens County converted in 2017 our recording system, which created new processes, and we imaged our documents as well. So what this grant does is it reimburses Pickens County for the transactions that include the software, the portal website, setup of implementation, training, the actual conversion, and 1 year of maintenance, in addition to all the hardware that was purchased that includes monitors, laptops, scanners, etc. So the amount of the award is a little bit over $59,000, and that reimburses the county for the transaction for the recording system conversion.
Okay, questions, comments? Steve?
Yeah, Janice, I presume this by doing this electronic recording technology will provide a better service to the public. And I'm just curious what it will do for your staffing needs and income, and is it a cost-effective thing? Are we going to make money? Are we going to lose money? Is it a wash on the money thing ultimately?
So Linda Gustafson, over the last couple of years before she retired, this was a huge project. And what it allows us to do is we have recorded documents in various media. We have actual paper books from 1881 to the 50s. We have aperture cards. We have microfilm. And then when I came on board in 2005, we converted to scanning documents in and handing them over. So now we have image documents. So we have all these different medias of conducting research with individuals come into our office and have to research. So what the system provides for us is we do have everything imaged and indexed back to 1976. This new system allows us to, and we have imaged everything back from 1881 to 1976, and our next project is and it's back posted to the system. These images are back posted. Our next step is to index and push out. So anywhere in the world, someone can sit down at their desktop and conduct research online of land use acquisitions in Pickens County. So that's what it provides. What it also provides is, you asked about income. You purchase by law a copy for 25 cents. So now we're seeing up to $3,000 online purchases of 25 cent, requests where you can print a copy out at your desktop. So it's creating that revenue for us monthly. The other thing is it's eliminating traffic for people to physically come into our office. The system we purchase is a good system that supports our needs. The next system we looked at was $250,000, so I think we made a fiscally responsible acquisition. So it helps. I hope that explains the services it helps provide our staff in the future. Now, with our election staff, when they aren't assisting customers in transacting daily transactions, what they're doing is they're going back into the image documents, indexing them grant or grantee and pushing them out. So there's backlogged workload for them in order to push that out for the customer. Thank you for the question.
Okay, questions, anyone else? I just would love to know, I see it's a one-year maintenance contract, assuming the software will be around a decade or two, perhaps.
We've got it locked in for 5 years.
It's a 5-year.
Our old maintenance was $23,000 a year. Our new maintenance, $4,600 a year. We locked it in for 5 years.
So we have a 5-year maintenance
Yeah,
contract.
we have a contract,
Tech
yeah.
support, and whatever, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
And we do collect a $1 surcharge that goes to a line item, and that line item is used specifically for improvements with e-recording transactions.
Got it. I had a question regarding the, somebody could get online and look at all the land use applications and transactions from anywhere in the world. And I'm just wondering, will you have a way of monitoring who's looking and where from?
We don't have a way of monitoring who's looking, but we have a way of monitoring who's purchasing copies. We also provide subscriptions. So if I want to purchase a subscription by month or year or week, we provide a subscription so individuals have passwords to get into the system. And through that subscription, they don't have to pay the quarter each document they print.
Got it. So you do have some data on who's accessing,
Yeah.
who's using.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, is there any way this creates a security issue going forward? Open access to everything isn't always
Right. We have everything backed up with CoFile, and CoFile manages our website for us. So we have security with their
you're comfortable
practices.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the Colorado Department of State Electronic Recording Technology Board Grant Award.
I have a
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for your
Great.
time.
Thanks, Janice.
That's first reading with a second reading on October 24th.
Thank you. Okay, next, an ordinance approving the purchase of 351 South Side Drive, Basalt, Colorado. Phyllis?
Hi, Phyllis Mattice, Assistant County Manager, and with me is Sally Sheepman Miller, who represents us on our purchases. So,
Welcome.
Nice to see you all.
pleased to be presenting this. We found this property as we were looking for an alternate location for our telecommunication translator TV FM department. They've been located in the basement of the jail, which does have its risks since there's water located above their space that they occupy, and they deal with electronic equipment. Also, the jail in the future is looking for to reuse that space where they're located. So at some point, they were going to need to find a new location anyway. This particular property became available. It's a residential commercial property. It has a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment on the top of it. It's located on Southside Drive. So that section of Basalt, it borders a park.
Picken County.
It is in Picken County. And it has more space than we believe the translator department needs, so there'll be also available some touchdown space as we kind of look at what should be programmed in the building for general county touchdown space. So I identified some costs as a breakdown for the purchase of this. Some will come from the housing fund for the apartment, some will come from the translator fund for their space, and then some from general fund. That may change as we figure out how much space each department will want to use in that. Outside the closing isn't until January, which will work because that is the lull time for the telecommunication department. They're typically, well, right now, yesterday they were at sunlight all day because snow was predicted today. So they were trying to get a lot of work done, wrapped up there. So wintertime's a great time to move because they're not in construction season and they'll be ready to move. Any questions? So Sally here can tell you the specifics about the building itself.
George?
I'll let Sally go first if you want to talk about the building.
Okay, well, I'm not sure exactly what you need from me. The total square footage of the property is 3,346 square feet. It was built in 1998, right along Southside Drive, very convenient to the bus stop if that's of concern for anyone. It's on I can't even remember how big the lot is, but it overlooks, there's a little soccer field or park right across, which is really great. Lots of parking in the back. So Southside was set up where they have alleys that you drive down to access all the properties on either side of the alley, and there's about 6 parking spaces in the back, and ample parking along Southside Drive, plenty of parking.
And we did finish the inspection period, so that has been completed, and the appraisal, and it appraised $1,000 more than our offer, so it's been good.
I was going to ask, how do we determine the rent?
Do you mean on the residential
On the
side?
residential.
On the residential side, George, I think we've been treating our employee units with the same categories and income qualifications, and so depending on who is placed in that, their household income would then drive a category that they would contribute rent based on that, so that it's equitable with the community housing program.
And then do we do a lottery on that, or?
We have been basically taking folks on a first come, first served basis as much as possible. If we have a specific need or a difficult to recruit or retain position, we'll prioritize those. If we have an opportunity to house someone like that, and so we'll go through the same process we do for all our employee units. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah.
We were holding units open for difficult to recruit or retain positions, and what we were finding was we just had too many vacancies. So our goal is to get the units filled, and if there's an opportunity to prioritize based on those difficult to recruit or retain, we'll prioritize those positions.
Great. Anyone else? Steve?
Yeah, Phyllis, I had a question actually about the space that they're in the jail building. Is that part of the space where the sewage backup has impacted where the communications facility is?
That, they are not in that location. What did affect them was when the flood happened, when we were in the middle of moving dispatch, they were flooded by some of that water.
Okay.
But the sewage backup wasn't on their section. That was more on the facility side of their offices.
Okay, so that's the facilities department impacted by that. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, and I look forward to when we have that fixed too. But speaking about this property and comparing it to the other property we had briefly looked at in that area of Basalt, I think this one to me is much better given the access off of Southside Drive and off of the alley are both easy to get to. And as I recall, that other property we looked at kind of had a roundabout route to get in and out of it. So, and this being in the Mid-Valley area is really ideally located to get to the different translator sites up and down the valley.
That's why the Basalt location, that's why we've been actively looking there. I mean, they maintain mountaintop sites that go from Glenwood Springs to Aspen, to up the Crystal, to Elephant, and then up the Frying Pan. So being able to be in Basalt makes all that much more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supportive.
You're good, supportive. I wanted to ask if you can tell us a little bit about the space that could possibly be meeting touchdown space. Is that what we're calling it? Will we actually use that will it be available to us if we need to schedule a meeting down Valley or Mid-Valley?
One of the office spaces that are currently there is rather large, and we've been talking about that being maybe an appropriate conference room. That could be used by anyone. The translator department is just under a restructure, and so they're going to have an admin support person that would be located there, which is going to be great. So there'll be someone to that will be at the building most of the time. We anticipate them being maybe in this building 1 day a week, but that'll make it a little more easy to schedule and to be able to use it. It's an interesting building because it's broken up in such a way that there's lock-off doors that you can reconfigure an awful lot of it. It has 3 separate entrances. One entrance goes into the apartment. There's a side entrance that goes into a small office. The front door goes into the main area. And then there's connecting doors. So depending on what you're using, so there's some of the office spaces upstairs in the commercial side as well as downstairs. So it's going to be interesting to program it. So yes, I think there'll be touchdown space. We're hoping to get, so we'll have our county network connection there, as well as then being able to have and a conference room. We think those are the 2 biggies that we have lost. It was nice having our BOCC office when we were meeting with other either jurisdictions or whoever we needed to meet with Mid-Valley to be able to have that Mid-Valley location. Right now, Town of BOCC's been really helpful with giving us space, but having our own would be a really nice benefit of this space.
And how many people would this accommodate?
I would say 10 to 12.
Okay.
As far as what's in there. I got to walk through it now, and I've looked at the floor plan, so that would be my guess.
And there may be other possibilities too. I think we need to go through kind of a programming exercise, and we'll bring that back to you. In this case, the facility fit 2 immediate needs very well: affordable housing as well as a translator. And we are going to have some additional space, and it'll either be open touchdown space. We may come back and say we'd like to dedicate it to a specific purpose, but we haven't gone through that exercise yet internally.
Got it. George?
So will we need to do remodeling, and then when do you expect the department to be moving down there?
It won't need really much remodeling for the telecommunications staff. They will need to create or move, I'm not sure how. They have bench space. So when they work on their electronic equipment, they just have a large shop bench, so to speak. So things like that will have to be put in, and I don't know if they'll be built. The actual layout of the building seems pretty accommodating to a lot of uses without moving walls or things like that. But we haven't gone through that programming, and when I looked at the plans when it was built, it looked like maybe there was a wall added at some point, and maybe we want that bigger. But it would be pretty minor as far as renovations. It's in really good shape.
And when would you anticipate moving the department down there?
We're supposed to close, scheduled for January 7th. So I would imagine sometime in the month of January they'd be looking to move, weather dependent. So maybe by the end of February the department would be in. Maybe by the beginning of February we'd be able to be renting the apartment out.
So why such a long span before closing? It seems like if we've got all our due diligence in.
There's a lease in place for
okay.
current CPA, and his lease is up at the end of December. We thought it would be cleaner just to take possession then. 2 things I wanted to mention. There is a 2-car garage for this property. The lot is almost 7,600 square feet, and as Phyllis said, it's in excellent shape. There's a second kitchen for the commercial aspect, as well as a kitchen in the apartment, which is in really good shape. It was kept for the owner's usage, and they didn't use it very much.
And the apartment is required to be owner occupied, so that apartment would be offered to county employees.
Got it. Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the purchase of 351 Southside Drive, BOCC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much.
So I have
Really
one
great.
other favor. We had a prolific plum tree this year, and I've brought you a plum tart for when you're finished today.
Oh, thank
Whoa!
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's outstanding.
Next time it'll be the 5 apple trees.
Excellent.
You
That's
bring us
great.
plums all the time.
Thank you.
I got that.
Ba-dum-bum.
All right. Okay, now, is everyone doing okay? Should we stick it out here? Do you want to take a
Yeah,
break
let's
for
forge
keep it going?
ahead
Okay,
here.
we're forging ahead. All right, individual consideration items, public hearings, second readings. Connie is up.
Good afternoon. Before we get to this resolution, I wanted to introduce a new finance employee to you all. This is Mara Morar, and very happy to have Mara on board. She is assisting me with budget this year, and it's one of the positions that the board approved during the period of our ERP implementation. So Mara will be assisting with budget, assisting with ERP implementation, and with our financial close, and so very excited to have her with us.
Welcome, Mara.
Thank you. So on September 25th, staff presented 7 budget supplemental requests to the board and explained them in detail. Today, I will give just a brief overview of each of these requests. The first one was for jail facility plumbing, to fix a section of the jail's plumbing where there were a number of different drops and turns which cause backups, and this is a request for $20,000. The next request is $217,532 from park dedication fees for Phase 2 of the Redstone Coke Ovens Restoration Project. We did receive a transportation enhancement grant for this project in the amount of $254,000, and so that covers about 47% of the total cost of the project. But as they went out to bid, the final cost came in higher, which is why they've come back for this additional request. Next, in the Human Services Fund, a request to spend the incentive awards which were given to Picken County Adult and Family Services. And this was for their collaborative management program. Then there's a request in the Housing Fund to add $583,678 to the county's share of the Basalt Vista housing project. And this came about after some of the infrastructure costs came in higher, and they also added a net zero energy use plan to the project. In exchange, the county will now receive 13 of the planned 27 units instead of 12. Then in the Translator Fund, broadband wireless access equipment. This equipment will be installed on 3 different mountaintop sites and at the North 40 Meet Me Center. This equipment will enable the connectivity of the microwave backhaul so that internet service can be transmitted to end users. And this will help the internet reach more households in the Roaring Fork Valley. And the amount of this request is $320,600. The next request is in the Ambulance Fund. In 2017, Aspen Valley Hospital gave us an estimate of final costs for the year and estimated a savings of $120,000. After subsequent review, they realized that this amount was not correct. But by the time that process had been completed and the review completed, we had closed our 2017 books. So we now need to go back and book an expense of $100,000 in our 2018 ambulance fund. So there was a net savings of $20,000. It's just a difference between the 2 years of when these costs are getting booked. And then the last request is in 2 different funds. Picken County Human Services and Public Health received 3 innovation grants, and these are to advance health outcomes for Medicaid members. The grants are Be Well Mental Health Coordination, Health First Colorado Capitation, and West Mountain Regional Health Alliance Regional Accountability Entity. And the 3 grants together total $236,092. Altogether, these 7 requests increased the county's 2018 expenditure budget by $894,912. There's an offsetting increase in revenue of $259,330 for a net budget change of $635,582. And we are here today for the second reading and public hearing of this resolution.
Okay, do we have any comments, questions? Steve?
thanks, Connie, for doing all the work on all these, and I know we've gone over them several times now, so I don't have any questions about specific ones, but just a general comment that a lot of times people ask me, well, what do you do as a county commissioner? And I try to explain to them that we, some of the major things we do, but this list of things here is just one snapshot of all the different things that we have our fingers in, a lot of different projects, and so it just shows the benefit that we do as a county to the citizens of the county.
It certainly makes the job interesting, all of these different projects and aspects, yes.
You have a motion?
So I would move to...
sorry. It's open to public hearing. Is there anybody? That's Valerie back there.
Well, you still open it and then say you closed it.
Let me closing it. Thank you.
No one's here to comment.
It's like driving a backhoe.
So did we have a motion yet or not on this one?
No, you have to make a motion.
Make a motion, okay. I'll make a motion to approve on second reading this resolution of the Board of County Commissioners providing supplemental appropriations to the 2018 budget and amending the 2018 third quarter budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you,
Thank
Connie.
you.
Okay, thanks, Connie.
Back to the next budget.
She makes it easier than open enrollment.
Okay. Valerie.
Okay, I think Valerie is up.
She says.
Next, we have a resolution authorizing Pitkin County Office of Emergency Management to accept the 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant from the state of Colorado, Department of Public Safety, Division of Homeland Security, and Emergency Management for the purpose of funding a portion of the Pitkin County Emergency Management annual budget.
I could not have said it better. I am Valerie McDonald, Pitkin County Emergency Manager, and as Greg just said, I'm here asking the board to accept the 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's money from the Colorado Department of Homeland Security, Office of Emergency Management. The anticipated amount of the award is $65,000. This will be our 5th consecutive year we have applied for and received the money. And the money is basically used to offset a portion of the Pitkin County Emergency Management budget. I'll stop there. Any questions?
Nice. Thank you for pursuing the supplemental funding to our budget and for this important role. And thanks for all that you did this summer with the Lake Christine fire and helping us avoid such fires in the future. So appreciate that. And after the public hearing, I will make a motion.
Okay.
So a public hearing is open. We're going to close the public hearing.
There were no comments. For the record, I would make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the Pitkin County Office of Emergency Management to accept the 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grants from the State of Colorado, Department of Public Safety, Division of Homeland Security, and Emergency Management for the purpose of funding a portion of the Pitkin County Emergency Management annual budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I have one thing I wanted to mention to you, because last year when I was in here, we were just getting ready to do our annual full Emergency Operations Center exercise, and that is coming up November 1. If any of the board members would like to stop by Mountain Rescue Aspen, the scenario will have to do with an extended power outage in the entire valley. So all of our emergency support function teams, and again, their role is to support our incident management team during a major disaster in the county. They will be participating in that. So if you want more information on that, let me know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Talk again soon about ongoing fire mitigation. We'll just keep that in front and center in everyone's minds throughout the winter.
Now's the time to do your project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Valerie.
Okay, up next, individual consideration items, emergency ordinance and resolution confirmatory reading. This is with John Ely. Emergency resolution accepting a grant offer from the Federal Aviation Administration for initial design work at the Aspen Pitkin County Airport.
Hi, Greg. Thanks. This is a confirmatory reading. In fact, this resolution was adopted and made effective by the board back on September the 12th. The Home Rule Charter for Pickens County allows the board to take emergency actions that have effectiveness immediately upon some demonstration of exigent circumstances that warrant the somewhat unusual process of affecting an ordinance or a resolution prior to a public hearing. The charter provides that if the board does take such action, then a confirmatory reading of the action, which allows for public comment, is held after the fact, and that's what this meeting and this item is scheduled for. So on September 12th, the board adopted an emergency resolution that allowed for us to accept $6 million from the FAA for preliminary design work in association with potential redevelopment at the airport. George brought this up yesterday during the board's work session. This particular grant does not require the county to design a particular project, and in fact is only for preliminary design work. Actual design work would probably be 5 times as much, at least. So the action will allow the board to have assets available to pursue preliminary design work in conjunction with the public outreach program that was outlined and has previously been designed for the BOCC to elicit public opinion and response and input as to what the airport design project should look like. Let's see. The reason for the emergency resolution, the exigency, if you will, is that at the end of the federal government's fiscal year, certain money becomes available for grants, and that money is then offered to through the FAA to various airport owners and sponsors, Pickens County, BOCC being one. The fiscal year for the federal government ends September 30th, and when the offer for a grant is extended to local jurisdictions or a local airport sponsor, the FAA demands a quick response, which is why we had to have a quick action in the emergency resolution. If the county was not able to make a quick action and respond in the affirmative to accepting this money from the FAA would have spun around and offered that grant money to some other jurisdiction or airport sponsor. So by taking the quick action, we were able to obtain this money for preliminary design work and have some resources available as we go forward for the next 15 months or so and trying to determine what the airport will look like into the future.
Do you have any questions here?
George has.
John, do we have any requirements in terms of accounting back to the FAA regarding this grant?
We have to demonstrate how the money was spent. It's limited in scope to design work, engineering, architectural type services, consulting services in relation to those types of tasks. So we can't just spend it for any reason at the airport. We can't spend it anywhere but for airport-related purposes. And so that demonstration will be made back to the granting agency, the FAA.
And then what happens if there's dollars left over, or it goes into the airport?
No, it goes back to the federal government.
It goes back to federal government.
Yeah. It's for a specific purpose. If the purpose is fulfilled without the need to spend the entire amount, then that goes back to the feds.
So our request was based on preliminary budgetary expectations.
The request was more in the blank without a specific dollar amount. This was a dollar amount that was made available to us based upon money available to the FAA and what the FAA understood our future needs to be as far as preliminary design work. And so it was a function of not only what we're anticipating on spending, but also on what's available from the FAA.
Okay. Anyone else? Comment? Question? I'd like to get a motion, I suppose.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Done. And here we are. We're 2 hours in. We've got, oh boy, it's a short list. Up next, we have Crystal Basin Holdings LLC activity envelope. Continue to 1024.
There's not a public hearing, so we don't have to do that.
No
but
public hearing on that.
I
Do we
would
need
make
a-
a motion to move to October 24th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. After that, resolution approving the Skybeam Ranch subdivision detailed submission and final plat, second reading. Suzanne is
We don't have
not here, but Mitch is here.
staff here. Is there?
Let me tell you, I think they're used to you taking a break between the.
Yeah, usually there is a
The
break.
traditional
items and
pause.
Land use,
The end,
so they.
the goalpost was so close, we decided to run for it.
Well, let's take a 10-minute
Let's take a
break.
break.
Should we? Okay.
We'll take 5 minutes while.
Try to track down our county staff.
5-minute break, grassroots.
Our massive building here.
come from downstairs and have these.
As soon as we all stand up, she'll run in the door.
Hopefully we can be done.
Okay, we're back with our Wednesday, October 10th regular meeting agenda. Item 15 is a resolution approving Skybeam Ranch subdivision detailed submission and final plat. This is the second reading. And we've got Mitch Ozer. Oh, were we waiting for Suzanne? Sorry.
I should have run upstairs.
Wait a minute.
I should have run
It's
upstairs.
2 o'clock.
This is deja vu. Can someone sit in?
Guess I'm moving too quickly today.
That's funny. Had to go all the way through it to realize, oh, wait a minute. Okay, and oh, there she is. Ta-da. We're on a roll here.
Sorry. Very efficient today.
All right.
Hi.
Go for it. You're on.
Okay. Am I supposed to touch this or am I on?
Red light.
I always have to do this to see.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't see the red light. Yep, no. He knows more than I do about being at the table. Suzanne Wolf, Community Development. This is a second reading, and I was not here to join you for first reading a couple of weeks ago. Cindy covered this for me with Mitch, which was great. But the short version is it's a 2-lot subdivision on West Buttermilk Road. This is the detailed submission and final plat review. So this has already gone through conceptual submission, growth management. I'm guessing you probably walked through some of the background details at the first reading, so I won't go back through that. I wasn't aware of any real issues that came up on first reading that would change the resolution at all. So what's in front of you reflects the resolution that had been presented at first reading. I'm not sure if there's anything else to add. I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions?
But
I have a question more for Mitch, if that's okay to jump right in there. I'm sure you've looked at the resolution as well. Item number 16, no development in excess of 30, shouldn't that be feet, not inches, above natural grade?
Oh, that's 30 inches is actually correct. In the setbacks, you can't change grade by more than 30 inches.
Okay.
Unless it's for the driveway.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I just wanted to be clear we weren't.
yes, that is correct.
Okay.
It would be,
Big change.
probably have some neighbors up in arms.
Up in arms.
Did that in the setback area.
Okay.
I had nothing much to add. There's nothing new. I was just going to suggest 1 or 2 little cleanups in the resolution that I would have gone over with Suzanne had I read it early enough to do that, but I didn't get to it in time. Just there's a bunch of places in the resolution where it refers to the doing things with the final plat if approved, where this resolution is actually giving that approval. So I was hoping to just strike the if approved language everywhere it occurs, because that is the approval.
Is that language what we normally leave in these resolutions, though? And then the fact that it's approved, I mean, it's a
Show me
boilerplate.
the locations where it shows up. I remember seeing
So
this.
things like, we got to record the
I'm
conservation.
comfortable removing that. I think that was, again, this is a holdover from Mike, who did sort of parts of the original review, and that was how he had drafted it. But no, I don't see any reason that we'd need to keep that language in.
I would make a motion to amend the resolution to delete the language if approved.
Otherwise.
Second?
Yeah, I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, and then?
Is that the only cleanup?
Yeah, it really is. I think condition 5 is a little odd to have in a resolution because it doesn't apply to the property owner. It's a condition saying that the holders of the conservation easement will notify the neighbors. And we have that exact language in the draft conservation easement, which you will see again and hopefully approve when it comes before you. So that language would be in there. I feel it's a little odd to leave it in there for the applicant, even though they probably won't be involved.
Well, I think it might be important for the applicant in case something happened that was out of sequence with this, and he can go back to say, hey, this was Pitkin County's error. It's right here in my approvals that they were supposed to do this. So I think it's a safeguard to leave it in there.
Okay, I mean, it's not one that bothers me. It just seemed a little odd.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything else unless you wanted to put a I'm used to seeing that I have to bring in the documents for recording in the plat within 180 days, and that's not in here. So if you want to put that in there, we're planning on doing it right away anyway, or at least following
I
up.
would make a motion to add such language.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor on that?
Aye.
I thought we had an issue a few years back when we didn't have that. When we didn't have that language in, and we said, well, let's make sure that's in all of our
Yeah,
resos.
I agree.
So
10 years. Seems like right after you were first sworn in, it came up, and it persisted for a number of years, and you were always trying to get taken care of.
So anyway, so for ComDev, that should be sort of a boilerplate part of the resos.
Yeah.
Are you referring
Or
to
whatever
the
date that
recording?
is.
Yeah.
So that way we know it's actually been platted and recorded.
And it was because things weren't platted, we couldn't get the trail, which they had promised, and they were fudging around with an application or something. But so we've put it in that you have to record it within a period of time, or else the approval is gone.
We can definitely add the condition, and I'll have to look back. I mean, the issue may have been that we wanted to codify that requirement. I don't think it is codified today that there's a time frame for recordation of your plat after approval. So I think we were catching it as a condition, but that may have been, I can look at my big list of code amendments, but anyway, I'll follow up on that. But
Great, thanks.
definitely we can include it in this resolution.
Doesn't seem to hurt, given the
Yeah,
history
no,
of this
I think
piece
it's
of land.
important to have in there. So we have amended it now to include that
Yeah,
language.
so the way we've done it in the last few that I've been involved in is, within 180 days of this approval, unless extended by a community development director. Because,
Yeah, in case there's something.
well, and, often we're still going back and forth with the attorney's office on certain language or whoever, whatever attorney, whatever department it may be, that you don't get it ironed out to have it recorded in 180 days, but we're working towards that.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
A public meeting.
Oh, sorry, I've got to open the public meeting. Thank you. Caught me. And we're going to close the public meeting. We're going to bring it back.
Okay, wait, did you call for public comment?
Do I have to call for it?
Yeah.
I open a public meeting, I have
Yeah.
to actually call for public comment. Okay.
Is there any public comment?
Is there any public comment today? Seeing none, I'm going to
Close
bring
the
it
public
back.
meeting.
Close the public meeting. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, thank you. Now,
So I'd like to make a motion approving the resolution, approving the Skybeam Rent subdivision PUD detailed submission and final plat, and activity envelope review
as amended.
as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Okay. Got to work on my
Thank you. Does
public.
that help you see where they are and if approved?
Calling for my open my public meetings.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, now we're at open discussion.
Yeah,
Open
this they didn't-
discussion.
we didn't do, so never mind that one.
Nothing. Anyone? We're all being pretty quiet here after this day.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to cut that plum.
Aye.
Yeah, we might want to have some of that. Suzanne, you should stick around. There's
We have a
plum
homemade
tart over
plum
there.
pie someone
Thank
brought
you.
in.
Grassroots, we're finished.
Gee, sure, why not?